Good morning, West USA. I don't know whether I came in a little bit early there or not, but anyways, Nick's not here.
No,
so
he's not.
Heather's here,
Yep.
and it's always a lot nicer.
Yeah, Nick's knee deep in Napa.
I don't know whether we were supposed to disclose that, but anyway, so everybody go
sorry,
ahead
Nick.
and text Nick and say, hey, thanks for the invite.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. All right, little sneak peek of what we got coming up today. As always, we got Todd here to give us a look at the numbers. Matt Baker with the Bookspan Baker team and his own little selfie setup. He's doing selfie videos of himself. So excited about that.
I'm not excited about it.
You're so old, man.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, and we're going to continue a conversation we had last week with our guest. So I'm going to share 3 ways to build an effective and productive workspace. And then Mindy Thompson's going to come by, and we're going to have a discussion, Todd, about adopting and finding new marketing and prospecting ideas. So pretty excited about that. And then, as always, if you got any comments or questions, feel free to email us at webinar@westusa.com. And Todd, oh, yeah, wait a minute. I was about to give you the keyboard.
I thought
it's like I'm new here.
I wondered if your finger was sore or something. So.
All right, we're going to fly through these announcements. If you have not attended one of our agent orientations, please join me this morning at 10:30. All of these events, if you have not signed up for them, you can find them through your dashboard and go to the calendar. But that's coming up this morning at 10:30. We have React this week. If you have not attended React, you need to sign up for it. A chance really to learn about our mobile apps, our CRMs, transaction desk, listing presentations, and things like that. So that is going on, excuse me, this week, starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. All right, surprise office meeting featuring Kyle Fouts and an open house panel. So I got a little... Todd, you and I need to chat. We need to go on the road. I caught about 15 minutes of your presentation at the North Phoenix office meeting last week on open houses, and I'm like, some really, really good stuff. So I definitely want to attend the surprise office meeting tomorrow from 10 to 11:30. Speaking of Todd, he's got his next virtual CE class coming up this Wednesday. Get your 3 hours of disclosure law. All right, so I'm going to be my wife and myself. I still don't know grammar, so I'll just, is it my wife and I? Is it me and my wife? I don't know.
Grammar of the moment.
Ask my 7th grader, she'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's ChatGPT when I need it, right? But anyways, our Arrowhead office meeting featuring a Mexican food potluck. That's why I'm there. But that's this Thursday from 10 to 11:30. And then my wife, as most of everybody should know by now, has released a book called The Power of Scarcity. So she's going to be talking about using scarcity principles in your marketing.
Everybody needs to read that book, Mike.
That's great.
They can even apply it to... Oh my gosh, you can apply to relationships too.
I tell you what I did. I took the manuscript. I'm going to put it through ChatGPT, and I'm going to write the sequel.
That's actually probably not a bad idea, though. Let's just see what happens.
All right, West USA Goodyear Cinco de Mayo potluck. That is this Friday from 10 to 1 p.m. at the Goodyear office. All right, and then we have a West USA Mesa Lunch and Learn this Friday from 10 to 12 p.m. featuring Keith Flynn. And I don't know what he's talking about. Oh, the social media content with ChatGPT. So perfect. All right, and then Dean Becker's got a in-person CE class coming up, 3 hours of agency law this Thursday from 9 to 12 at the Chandler office. And then, as always, this afternoon, join Bob Stevens for Don't Do That from 2 to 2:30. All right, Todd, now I'm going to hand you the keyboard. Take it away.
Mike. Well, happy May Day, everybody. Today, we're going to be going over the Greater Phoenix Metro real estate market statistics for the week ending today, May 1st. And let's get right into it. 69 days closed on market right now, a 1.95, just under 2 months supply. Absorption rate is being eaten up at 51.18. I did have a question, but I'm going to answer it about absorption rate in the next section when we get to the spreadsheet. 801,000 is our average list price, 543,000 our average sale price. List price retention is at 97.67. Active inventory is still continuing to slide. However, this week slid at 5% rate versus our standard 2% contraction that we've experienced over the last 16 weeks. So that's not a good sign. Pending at 4721, closed units at 6634 for the month. That's not vetted yet. Looking at new listings, we took 1,646 new listings this past week. That's down 20%. That will have an impact on inventory. Taking a look at inventory ranges, 52, the under $500,000 price point, is continuing to slide just a little bit at 52.27. That was as high as 56%, if you remember. But of course, prior to the last 3 years, that was at 73%. So again, we can just see things transition into the next marketplace, which is the $500 $1 million price range, which is sitting at 33% and running at about 80 days on market. $1 million and up properties, that this is kind of taking a backseat, starting to slow down a little bit, 14.6%. Taking a look at our spreadsheet across the board, and if this is the first time that you've been with us, in the very center column, 2021 SW, that's the same week 2 years ago. To the left of that, we have 2022 SW, that was the same week last year, same reporting period week. And then to the left of that, we have week over week. So 1646 is what we took this past week, 2009 the week before. What do we use to say, is this good or is this not good? Well, I got two things. Way over on the left-hand side, you got rules of thumb, ROT, says we should be averaging 2,400. That's actually the sweet spot. But what have we been averaging? Slide your eyes to the right. Last year, we were at 2,554. Strong. We were bringing in this past week, 2,394 for 2021. So when we're at 16, if we're really under these numbers as a comparative average, we're really saying that there's a reason why the sellers are not putting their houses on the market. Call it inflation, call it recession, call it cost of living, call it CPI, whatever you might want to call it. They're just not putting the properties on the market at the rate that we need. Hence, our inventory, our active inventory at 12,963, down from 13,683. Even though people say, oh yeah, but it's a lot better than look to the right of that, 7,450. We still have, just under twice the inventory. Yeah, but we had 3 times the inventory 4 months ago. So 12,963 is a continual slide. 559 of those are coming soon. 10,200 down 500, single family detached, non-distressed. 2,595 new home construction properties out there. 12, and of course there's many more than that. These are the properties that just happen to be listed in ARMLess. 12,912 is the non-distressed inventory. Taking a look at pending, well, again, we slid a little. We had a fewer people, many fewer, but we need to be up higher than this still. Slide drives to the right. You see, last year we were about the same. So there's about the same number of people right now in the marketplace as there was last year this time. And what I mean in the marketplace, because this is pending, right? Well, for all practical purposes, this means that these are people under contract, but we use this as an average because that's a meeting of the minds, right? Sellers and buyers agree at whatever price or whatever terms. So 4798 is where we were last year, 5,700 the year before, which is my sweet spot. 5,500 where we should be. Closed for the month of April, actually, March. Where are we now, Mike? We're in May. So that's wrong.
This should be 2022.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, 22.
25. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
So anyway,
it was a rough weekend, man.
We're at talking about the April numbers. This is May 1st. So 6,603 month to date for April versus 9,200 the year before. This isn't definite numbers yet, but they're going to be pretty close to this. I'm going to do this next week for you. Taking a look, and as far as distressed inventory is concerned, it's still less than 0.5% of 1%. So that's a good sign. It's not anything but a blip on the radar. 1.95 months supply, that's contracting a little bit, a little too low. 2.5 to 3 is where we want to be. Average list price is not really all that important, but it does give us a little bit of something to compare to. We were at 821 last year. We're only at 801 right now, same week over week comparison. 543 is our average sale price. We were at 599 last year. So when we talk about moving that needle up and moving it up, we were at 572 last week. This just shows you that this is a very capricious market, and that's why you got to be careful when you're talking about average sale prices as it relates to the consumer's appreciation on their property. Or even what they can get for the home this week, because this is just a point in time number. So 97 days on market for active, 69 for sold, and a 97.67 list price to sale price retention. So those are some really good numbers in some instances, even though many of them are in the red. So let's continue to watch this, and we'll continue to give you the numbers. Next week, we'll do the month end.
I appreciate it, Todd. All right, we're going to bring Matt Baker into the conversation with the Bookspan Baker team moment. All right, Matt.
All right, let's do it. So interest rates did week over week tick up ever so slightly. And I feel like the market is reacting to some banking stress, as you may have heard of the First Republic now, and so some other things that are causing it. But also the jobs number was just even though you're reporting layoffs and layoffs and layoffs, they haven't really started to come into the market yet. So that is also kind of weighing it. Now, next week, big news, May 10th, inflation number comes out again. So this is supposed to be the one that shelter starts to catch up, and being 43% of the inflation number, it's an important number to look for. So I'm not waiting to lock loans. I think if you're going to lock, you better lock at that moment in time. But ultimately, hopefully some good news is on the horizon. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about, we have our mission. And what I mean by that is there's enough data out there in the market that we know as real estate and lending professionals, we have to do a better job educating our clients. And I pulled some of this data. It's really important stuff. I wanted to go through it. But 2/3 of 2023 buyers are waiting for mortgage rates to drop before home shopping. Probably no surprise. But what is your rebuttal to that? My conversation would be, well, if you wait too long, now all of a sudden, more people are in the market. Now you're competing for that home. Now you're paying overpriced. You're not getting seller concessions. There's all the negatives that come from that. 30% plan to wait until rates drop below 5.5%, and 28% want to see rates below 6 before they enter the market. Well, we're getting there. We're not quite there yet, but come May, June, July, it absolutely may be. But again, the same conversation. Well, what are you doing to prep them to be prepared for? Well, you may have to pay more for that house then, because now there's more buyers potentially looking for that. One thing that was sort of interesting, and more than a quarter, 26% are waiting for rates drop below 5. Well, that's not going to happen for a long while.
I'm waiting to see 2 3/4 again.
Yeah, well, keep waiting. 62% of respondents find it challenging to keep up with mortgage rates, trends, and news. Hence why we're having these conversations, and why you should be referring to me and others in the lending space sooner than later. So what's a good takeaway? We got to educate. We got to educate on buying now. What are the benefits, whether it's home availability, seller's willingness to negotiate. You can always refi later. There's lots of options, and we have to start selling. We know the mission. We know what these clients fearful of. Now we just need to be able to address it and get them into homes. So hit the next one. We've got majority of respondents, 61% are first-time home buyers. So
wow.
No question why they struggle with what are the market and rates and how that all works, because it's confusing, right? And especially if you're a first-time home buyer, that's important. The vast majority, 86%, are at least a little stressed about buying a home this year. 86%. That's a huge number. So if they're feeling stressed, they're maybe more likely to not do something because of that stress. So how do we help them navigate that? And then again, 20% reported feeling extremely stressed, which probably puts them in the spot of, I don't want to buy at all, or I'm just not even going to return your call. So how do we desensitize and de-stress that situation? I think it makes sense with having really high level conversations, especially for first-time home buyers, about you don't need so much cash. There's so many options with credit. Let's start working on a plan. And then hit the last one. The number one priority for home buyers when choosing a mortgage is having an affordable monthly mortgage payment. That makes sense. 35% of respondents said so. That followed by getting the lowest interest rate possible. So here again, here's our mission, right? Lowest interest rate is not always the best for a potential client. Why would you want to spend 2, 3, 4 points to buy the rate as low as you physically possibly can, when that's not a long-term benefit for you strategically? And then of course, saving the most money out of the entire loan, 21%. That was another big takeaway. So what are we going to do? Well, we have to have a consultative approach when engaging with the lender, referring them over sooner than later in the process. And I say, we have to show them the path, and we have to explain the path with examples, typically with the slides that I present, with other stuff you get from the Cromford report, from Todd Menard's numbers, all that stuff. And then we have to walk with them down the path. We don't just point them in the direction and say, here's what you need to do. You need to be along with them for the ride. And that's really what we do here with me, and as an agent, you would want to make sure that you're walking down this transition with them. And then of course, as always, you can check out my QR code for my contact details. Got a lot of good response and some good downloads. And so there's a new video there that'll fill you in. I know I'm getting into video.
I love it.
And that's it. That's what I got for the day.
I just wanted to add, I mean, all those stats to me especially the percentage of people that are stressed out about buying a home, it's good news because they're just looking for somebody to come along and be the source of
Be
information.
the expert, be the
And,
professional.
and so I think for us, and maybe Todd, you and I will do a 3-pack next week of how do you build those campaigns? How do you stay in
That's
front
great.
of your clients when it comes down to these things? Because right now, posting, I'm always the bad guy here, posting community events. Okay, that's not what people are looking for. People are looking to understand
They want
what's going on in the market.
knowledge.
How do I decipher rates are up, rates are down, rates are up, the rates are down, and so forth. So we'll talk
Great.
about that next week.
Yep.
All right, Matt, appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
As always, really good information. All right, so we're going to jump into last week, Todd, we had a good friend of mine and a business coach, Adam Kipnis, on the big show. And this was just one of his tips. So I highly encourage everybody to go onto the West USA's YouTube page and check out last week's podcast. But it just really kind of stuck with me. So I thought we would just carry this into a deeper conversation because I know, Todd, you and I, we've spent a lot of time over the last couple decades, talking about these strategies. And I wanted to bring Mindy into the conversation because she's a top real estate agent coach on a national level, as opposed to not only just here at West USA. So I wanted to just have a dialogue about building a productive workspace. I think that COVID really just messed people up, and people got used to or were forced into isolation. And isolation, I always maintain, really is the business killer. We are not meant to do this business in an isolated capacity, but neither here nor there. I mean, you choose where you want to work. And so that's the first tip: is identify. Don't just say, I don't want to go to the office. Just don't say, I don't want to rent office space. You have to sit back and take inventory and identify where you work best at. Just because you are permitted to work at home in your pajamas doesn't mean that you should. My wife should always work from home because she is highly, highly efficient. I should never work from home because the refrigerator, the TV, even the washing machine, I'd rather do laundry than make calls, right? So I get sidetracked. So just because you can work at home doesn't mean you should. But you have to answer the question, guys, do you work better at home? Maybe you work better at a coffee shop or at I got two A's there, or maybe you work better at a West USA office. But Todd, you and I always talked about, if you do work from home, go through the motions. You always talk about take the shower, get dressed, get in your car, drive down and get a cup of coffee, and then drive up to your house like you are showing up to work. And then I just also wanted just to throw out there, West USA has private offices for rent.
You know, Mike, this is so important, Mindy. There is your domain. In fact, any real super producer of anything will tell you that you have to focus, you have to get in a range, and then that when you say, I'm going to time block, or I'm going to just call and make phone calls for the next hour or 2 or 3, you have to shut off every external, sometimes even local internal distractions that you possibly can, so that you are uninterrupted. It's difficult to work from home because of life. And life comes in, the phone rings, the dog has to go out, your child has to get picked up from school or dropped off at school. There's so many interruptions in the real world today. So you have to protect yourself. You have to kind of put yourself in a bubble. That's where you're going to get the majority of successful production. What happens if you took an 8-hour day and said, you know what, Mike, this week and Mindy, I'm going to work 3 hours of distraction-free time, and just see what you can pump out in those 3 hours. And maybe you could do it in 2, maybe you could do it in 4, because the average person in America works 4.7 hours. This is a corporation statistic. They work 4.7 hours a day in an 8-hour workday. Truthfully, no, that's true. Production.
I can't believe it's that high.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree and we can all admit that when we are dressed And at the office, we're always kind of a different version of ourselves
Yeah.
than when we're even at home and maybe dressed, you know? And so I have a client coming in the office every week to make calls right now. She's not allowed to do them at home. So utilize this beautiful office space.
I also we are inherently, and I don't know whether it's real estate agent specific, if it's just our industry. I don't know whether it proves true with other independent contractors out there, such as financial advisors. But we are inherently cheap. We don't want to spend $10 for a great class. I did a class and one guy emailed me, wanted to know if we were providing lunch. I mean, that was the deciding factor. He wasn't going to show up to a class
He's
that
listening
was
to you too
Was
long.
it you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, maybe. Touche. Okay. But we are inherently cheap. And in your guys' experience, the amount of efficiency that your business will see from being at the office as opposed to working from home. We have some beautiful offices for rent. Maybe some are $450 a month, $550 a month. And it seems like a lot of money. But if you aren't, I mean, the money worth well spent? I think it would be if it's going to take you from home and putting you into an environment where you're going to be more efficient, more productive. It's going to more than pay for itself.
Yeah, and sometimes you can share that cost with another agent in the office, which even makes it that much more affordable depending upon the size
Unless
of
they
the
talk
office.
a lot.
That's true.
Yeah. But, Mike, one of the things you said in the very beginning, which I still relate to, when you said, get in the car, drive down to get to Circle K, get $1.45 coffee, not a Starbucks $8 coffee. Well, get what you want. But the point is, I'm trying to lead with revenue, and it changes your mental ability. You start interacting with people even by mistake because you've got to pay the cashier or things of that nature. But you walk away when you adorn yourself for battle. You get up in the morning, you put on your makeup, your clothes. Guys get themselves ready. It's kind of like preparing armor for the day. And if you mentally think about that as you're getting dressed, as you're brushing your teeth, as you're washing your face, as you're putting on your makeup, whatever it is you might be doing, that you're arming yourself to be the best you can be that day, and accomplish the most for others, for your clients, come from contribution. It's amazing what you can accomplish.
Yeah, and I'd also say, and this wasn't on the 3-pack, but when you're in the office, and that'll kind of go into your subject matter later on this morning, Mindy, is the amount of collaboration and synergy that goes on when you're around other agents. And even if you don't want to rent office space, Mindy, every office has got cubicles, places that you could sit down, turn on your computer, and work.
You get to rub elbows with the likes of Mike
Oh,
Weinstein,
stop it.
with the
Keep it
likes
coming.
with the likes of Carlos Cicero, Dave Pruitt, other people who are in the office every day, and you get to hear what they're doing and see what they're doing. And if like we always say, if it's working for them, it'll work for you too, but you've got to expose yourself to it.
All right, second one, Mindy. You're going to get really, really excited about this one. I can already see it.
No.
All right, but you have to, whether you work from home or you work from the office, either the day happens to you or you happen to the day. And I don't know whether that's a quote or not, but if it's not, I'm running with
You're
that.
good. You did it first.
I got that trademark now. But you have to have a schedule, and you have to maximize your calendar by time blocking. You have to have a calendar, and you have to have a start time. You have to have an end time. Obviously, in our business, that end time has to be flexible, because if you never know when you're prospecting and someone's like, "Hey, 6 o'clock tonight, let's go look at homes." But you also, to Mindy, your earlier point, you have to ensure that you set a time for prospecting. In our business, if part of your daily routine is not picking up the phone and prospecting, deals are not just going to magically fall into your lap. And then always review and plan. Who remembers the Franklin Planner?
Stop it.
I know.
I don't.
I never should have brought that up. Back
She's a millennial.
I'm not a millennial. I'm
Oh,
Gen
okay.
X.
Well, you're acting like one right now. But the Franklin Planner, I'm a checklist guy, and so the Franklin Planner was you list out all your tasks and you categorize them by A, B, and C. The A's have to happen, and then each of the A's they get a number: A1, A2, A3. And then at the end of the day, and you would check them off. And at the end of the day, what wasn't done, you had to rewrite in the following day. And that's me. I'm a I've got my stuff that I've got to get done. But you have to have a schedule set in place.
You want to start?
I love the Franklin Planner. To be
It
honest,
worked,
I'm a
right?
big checklist person. And the reason that I really love this idea with the A1, 2, 3 is because if you read Atomic Habits, you listen to James Clear, those B and C items are dangerous
Yeah.
because they're
Time
important,
wasters.
but they're not prospecting important. They're not lead follow-up important. So it's easy for us to go, well, I'll just start with those C things. And then, oops, we never got to A, which was imperative to get done. So I really like that concept.
Yeah, totally. Anything is a schedule. CRMs are an electronic version of the Franklin Day Planner, and that's just where it's evolved to. It's evolved to you can click a button now and it automatically moves to the next day, or you can, just have it prompt you. Which my Franklin Planner, if I left it at home, I didn't have consumers numbers. I didn't have what am I supposed to get done today, and so this is the smartest thing because there's that old-fashioned thing about getting the rocks done first. You remember that?
Yeah.
There were 4 buckets. One had rocks, one had gravel, one had sand, and one had water. And if you don't put those things, if you don't put the big rocks in first, everything else doesn't sift and fit in, and the rocks fall out. So metaphorically, it's a graphic image that shows you that the most important thing is getting the income producing things, which is prospecting. And prospecting is not a bad word. It just means having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
I had my first Franklin Planner. I was using my first one in the 9th grade. That's how far back this
You
goes.
guys really just want to give us your age just right on the webinar. Okay.
I saw it on Google.
All right. So if you do have a private office, whether it's at home or whether you heed our advice and check out one of the West USA offices, you also have to prepare your workspace. You have to decorate it. You have to have the appearance so that when you walk in, it's going to inspire success. It's going to inspire organization. I'm a firm believer of what you're looking at will impact your mindset. I'm at my office. My home office at home is different than mine here, but I don't know. I'm just a bookshelf guy. I love walking in. Having books makes me feel smart. Okay, I can barely read. I'm not a smart guy, but I tell you what, I walk in, I go, man, this guy's got books. I'm smart.
This guy's got books.
But I'm also, and now this is more.
That is the first, Mike.
But I'm also, and this is just more of something specific to me. I'm a whiteboard guy. I have several whiteboards in my office. Ryan and I, we have a big giant one. We brainstorm ideas, and we just got pictures of the whiteboard because we don't leave it up, but we brainstorm ideas. I also have one right behind me that I can look at every single day. That kind of just so that I can look at it. My hot leads, my leads that are with my lender, and then my nurture leads. And then some of the other things that I do is I always have in front of, whether I get to it that day or not, but whatever book I'm currently reading, I always have right in front of me because it's constantly reminding me of some of the things that I've read. And then, if you're into motivational quotes, have a motivational quote or two laying around.
Yeah, this is one of those things where your success is directly in proportion to the skill development you personally between your ears enhance on an annual basis. Because the difference between you and the agent next to you is what's between your ears, the content, the historical advice that you can provide, the statistics, or just the close of escrow numbers, whatever it might be. And so you have to be prepared for that. But your skill, your ability to command whatever compensation you desire you want to earn this year is made up of, what am I making per transaction and how many of those transactions do I have to accomplish to get my income? So it's really pretty simple. But at that same point, and so when you see a whiteboard, that whiteboard you got a vision board, right? It shows you the picture of the camping or the, multi-million-dollar house you want. But your whiteboard is your vision board for today.
Agree 100%. All of my coaching clients, I have on a regular basis send me a picture of their workspace, send me a picture of their desk, their office. I check for a couple things. I check to
Really? I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I check to make sure it's tidy. I make sure their goals are posted, clearly apparent where they can look at it all day long. And I look that there's something around a book, a quote, something, because in any sales-based job, it's tiring. It's a rejection heavy. And, is your environment set up somewhere to keep you motivated, to keep you positive, things like that. So yeah, about once a month, all of my clients have to send me a picture of their workspace.
Here's what I should do. I should get one of those plastic placeholder things, and I try to do my prospecting in the morning. And so I need to have somebody like set aside, put in there a picture of what I could be having for lunch that day. But I don't get to have the pastrami corned beef sandwich unless there's something in that.
I'm telling you.
All right, guys, appreciate that. That is
That's
our
awesome.
3-pack. Well, with that, we're going to keep Mindy around because Mindy and I were chatting last week, and for those that know me, know that I am an idea guy. As a matter of fact, I have a journal, and one of these days, I started, but I haven't finished it. Maybe I need a coach to kind of keep me on it.
They never finish.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a book of just of all the years I've been masterminding with agents and seeing agents, a book of my top 25 best ideas. And when I say my best ideas, they're not my ideas. They're just ideas that I've seen other people do. I've adapted, I've modified, I've made them work for me. And I started it. I started it on an airplane about 4 or 5 months ago. But that's another whole story. Maybe I need a coach. But anyway, so we're going to talk about that. And Mindy and I were talking about, you just said that you just, it's kind of something that you've been researching and kind of where we're at in life today. Mm-hmm. So I love this, the first point. Right when I would say like 6 months in to COVID, I'm good friends with a lady who used to be an executive with one of the largest boys and girls clubs in the nation. And we were just having a conversation just about how COVID was impacting them. And just like everybody was having those conversations. And she said we adopted a slogan, which I've now ripped off because I've used it more than 3 times, was you either pivot or you perish. And we can't, and to your point, we can't be stubborn and set in our old ways because the market is constantly changing and we have to adapt. We have to change with it.
We do. If Netflix is in town, you cannot remain Blockbuster because we all know what happens there. And that's kind of the way
that's a great one.
I don't know if I made that up or not.
We are spitting out quotes left and right.
I hope
today.
Everyone has a pen handy right now. But the methods that have worked for you for the last maybe several years might not be working right now, or not at the rate you need them to be where you need to be financially. So if you haven't already, it's time to open your mind up a little bit to some change. For the past decade, we can all admit, I think business has been pretty consistent in this industry. And something counterintuitive to me, I recruit, right? I do business development. Recruiting suffered in the downturn this last couple of years. And I had to sit down and go, wait, what I've done for 10, 12 years isn't working for me like it used to. What am I going to do, right? So I imagine you're all in kind of a similar boat. So what are we going to do to keep up with this change? The most adaptable people are the ones that are going to survive. So if you are one who's, I'm never going to do this, I've always done it that way, you'll hear people say that, you might want to go find a day job because it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, Todd, for me, we all remember the market crash we've identified that Mindy's really, really young. Yeah, so I don't know whether she remembers the market crash in 2007. And it was devastating, obviously. And it was devastating to the point for me that I completely exited out of the real estate space. Didn't have that ability to adapt. I have friends that got into the real estate space at that time with a different plan and a different way to tackle the market. Had I stayed in and just adapted, I would probably be in a much different spot today than I am now. Fast forward, I could have swore to myself I would never do that again. And then when COVID hit, Ryan and I were like, we sat down and said, okay, pivot or perish. We've got to adapt. In this market, we're constantly adapting. But you've seen so many agents kind of with that mindset of I ain't going to change, I ain't going to try new things, it's too risky.
Yeah, that I believe there's a book. It's called The Seven Deadly Words, if I recall correctly, and I know it's certainly referred to, and that the seven deadly words are I've always done it that way.
Oh, wow.
And so the fact is that if you're trying to make the world compete with the way you've always done it, it's just not going to work. It's got to go the other way.
All right, so build more on the areas that are working for you. So I think that's imperative, because I'm not telling everybody to just remove everything.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
figure out what's working, what's not working, and how. But even what's working, Mindy, has to adapt with the changes. I.e., or for example, open houses. Open houses always work, but we've seen technology, and so open houses have evolved, and you have to be able to evolve with it.
You do. It's funny. Mike Ferry said this to me a couple of months ago. He goes, well, if electricity was invented, are you saying you wouldn't use it? And so as these new inventions, as these new things keep coming out with technology, with AI, with all those, we should be using it to implement in our business. But if the majority of your business comes from referrals right now, great. Double down on working your database. Okay. This might mean making extra phone calls to each of them. It might mean finally getting serious about cleaning up your database and sending up reminders for each person. It might mean taking one person from your database out to coffee once a week. So you're just doing more than you have been. Instead of waiting for your phone to ring or waiting to get that text or email, work the source and take control of it so that you can control the results better than just kind of crossing your fingers and hope your phone rings today.
But Todd, we have to, though, have a system in place to figure out what is working for me. At the end of the year, I've had X amount of closings. You have to figure out where those closings have come from, because sometimes we think that, oh yeah, this is a primary lead source, this is working for me, but if you really dig deep, it's not. And then for me, I had one where I didn't know my cause marketing strategy. I was driving to a class, and I'm like, how many closings did I have last year through cause marketing? And I think I had 10 transactions. I didn't even realize it was working. And I'm like, well, crap, I got to double down on that. But you have to take that inventory.
Well, you do. And that's one of the reasons why I like statistics. At least, I'm kind of schizophrenic. I'm a huge driver, but I'm also very analytical. So in other words, what it means is if I'm going to spend an hour of my time, I want to get the most maximum probability of return I can get. So for me, it's picking those lead generation options that get me closest to the consumer, closest to potentially more business. And so, open houses, sure, that's always been a really good thing. But you always have to hold those numbers accountable to something. It's either your own personal statistics. If you look back, I don't care if you've been doing this for 6 months or 6 years or 60 years, history leaves clues. Go back and take a look at what you've done, divide it into the number of days, divide it into the number of hours, divide it into the however you want to break it down that's important to you. And you can get a lot of these things done pretty simple by going to a coach, because it's hard for someone that hasn't been in a coach mindset to understand how to do that. But it doesn't have to take forever. You don't have to pay a coach forever. You just need help now.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because people probably get sick and tired of hearing this. But CRM helps you do this. Every person in my CRM, I have a lead source. So at any given time, I can see how many closings I've had in the last 12 months from this lead source. So this is how I've always done it, whatever phrase you used earlier, Todd. It's time to adapt from Excel. you know, and
Yeah,
use a
please.
system design to help you with it. All right, we're going to spend the most time on this one because I do want to talk about new strategies. Where do you get new marketing ideas? I'm a believer, and I think Mindy and I agree on this, that an agent should have approximately 5 primary lead sources that they're drawing from. So the bottom 2, how effective are they? Maybe is it time to implement 2 new ones and replace with ones, replace the ones that aren't working as well? But it's one, identifying, hey, do you have room, do you have need for some new marketing or prospecting strategies? But then where do you get them?
hmm The homework for this point could be to list out the last from 2022 to year to date 2023, every closing you've had, put next to it, was it a buyer or a seller and where did it come from? So it's that easy. And if you want me to look at that for you, I definitely can and give you some thoughts. But I'll go back to my previous point. If the referrals are working for you, great, double down as I mentioned, but that's not it. That's not all. If you leave this talk with anything moving forward, it is that I want you to try something new this week. And so I would highly doubt your average realtor is working 5 active sources right now. So if by that I mean your database is one source, your referrals are one source, okay? Your open houses, that's another source. Let's say you have a farm, that's your third source. You need 4 or 5 that you're working all of the time. So some of you are going to need to add 1 or 2, but maybe need to add 4. But start with 1. This week, okay? And have it be something new. So for every agent I have that says I'll never do an open house, those don't work, I'll show you 10 that built an incredibly insane business.
If open houses aren't working for you, it's as simple as you're just not doing them right.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
Yeah, everything has a number again. Open houses happen to be 48% of all buyers tour an open home. This is NAR's number. And of those 48%, you should be working, if you're a host at an open house, you should be working with 25% of those 48 who toured your property. So if it's not, why is it not? Is it the person that you're looking at in the mirror? Was it that you didn't do all the things that you need to do to have a successful open house? And if you don't know what all those things are, you just simply have to take a class and go figure it out. But I think Mindy, you mentioned 6, 7 different sources. Think of a motor. If you had a 2-cylinder, 2-stroke motor, and one cylinder or one spark plug went bad, and call it lead generation, that engine just stops. The whole engine stops. If you have a 4-cylinder, they don't make 3 cylinders. I have a 4-cylinder that I know of. If they make a 4-cylinder motor and you pull one, the engine still stops. But if you have a 6-cylinder motor and you pull the spark plug off of one of the cylinders, the engine will continue to run and get you home. And that's really what we're talking about, getting to home. What's home? Hitting your objectives and your numbers so that you earn the income that you set and desire for yourself.
Absolutely. What is one thing that you can do this week that you're willing to do that you can continue to do for about 8 more weeks? I'm not asking you to implement a quantum shift in your business. I'm saying let's say I'm going to start calling my database. I don't normally call them. I'm going to call them. Maybe you build an hour in your schedule and then you repeat that for 8 weeks. You can't do a one off, and I'll talk about that in my next point. But maybe you're already calling your database, but you could use some really great questions to ask them to help those conversations give you a little bit more of what you need from them. Let's start small, but I'll talk about this, but I have a sheet of ideas I'll email out after this.
Yeah, and well, let's just not skim over that. That's the big takeaway today. And I'm going to talk about some of where I generate my ideas from in a moment. But Mindy has put together a list of just ideas. It's just an idea box. Call it whatever you want. And excuse me, her email address is on the screen there at the bottom left. And if you'd like this list, or you would like an opportunity to chat with her, Mindy is a very, very successful real estate coach. And she will guide you. She'll give you some advice and things like that. So give me an idea or 2 on this list. Or am I putting you on the spot?
No, not at all. Post a video for the first time on your Facebook. Create the first reel you've ever done for Instagram. And I'm giving you social media things, which I know nothing about.
Let me tell you something. I almost called you bro. Okay, I'm now. I'm like,
That's a new one.
I like no idea what a reel or a short was at all, and we've launched this podcast now. Granted, I'm hiring someone to do this for me, but I'm on the TikTok machine and I'm on
All
Instagram. We're doing
right.
reels. Our first week, we had over 23,000 views.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't even know what it is. I don't even know how it works. And now friends of mine are stopping me and going, "Oh man, you're on TikTok." I'm like, I am.
You know what? I love that. And I'm having social media inept clients as homework, post your first video and send me the video. And I mean, they're just horrified, but they're so far it's 100% the feedback is, whoa, this many people looked at it, this many people commented, this many people text me. Maybe for some of you it's finding an expired listing in your neighborhood and going to the door and just knocking and having a conversation with that homeowner.
Oh, I thought you were about to say put that stranger on a reel. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think.
Well, actually, it might not be, but here's the thing: don't do it.
okay.
From the brokerage to you, don't do that.
Yeah, just something new that you can implement, that you're willing to do for the next several weeks, so that we can measure it, which we'll talk about.
I've been, we've been having these conversations with Keith Flynn, our director of digital media here,
Years.
and he's just been preaching video,
Mhm.
video, and I never really got into it because I do not watch videos. I just don't. So my mind says, well, if I don't watch them, nobody else is going to watch them, and it can't be. I just couldn't be further from the. If you send me a text.
Yeah.
Hey, check out this 30-second video. I'm telling you, bro, I'm not watching
Okay,
it.
so I believe that, and I believe that's me too. However, I have been encapsulated by your shorts.
Oh, thanks.
So no, seriously. So what happened, and why
The shorts
though?
that I'm wearing or my video shorts?
Stop it.
Okay.
Now, jeez.
We'll answer the question.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I remember that. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'm not even sure I remember the one I started for myself. But no, the reason was because it's 30 seconds to a minute and a half. It's a short. You're not going to be. I don't have to spend 5 minutes to see if I like the topic and the content. It's blasted at you. The most concise minute and a half on a particular topic you're going to get. And so to me, it's, I can watch that. I'm walking on my way to the car. I can watch that, in between. It's so much more user friendly. And I think because of that, it's easy for people to say, yeah, I'll subscribe to that.
All right. So some of the other things that I do, and I think why I have a lot of great ideas that I've implemented into my business. One is I'm here at the office all the time. So I see our agents. I talk with our agents. I go to our office happy hour almost every single month. Yes, the alcohol and food is free, so that's a bonus. But the conversation I have with other agents, and we get in these conversations, what's working? What are you doing that's working? What's not working? And the amount of ideas that I get. I'm very selective on the classes that I'll attend, but we have some really good classes here at West USA. And if I can go to a class, if all I need to do is walk away with one idea, something, just one idea. Anytime that there is a mastermind event, I love masterminds because the ideas that and again, I just need one. If there is a mastermind event and you're invited to it, shame on you for not going, because that is what a mastermind group is designed for. So put yourself out in situations where you're going to learn ideas and what other people do. And then there's a ton of very naughty agent Facebook groups that I would implore all of us to stay away from. But there are others that are specifically designed for the sharing of ideas and learning and find those?
That's kind of what I've been trying to, I believe I've achieved it, although I'm constantly intending to do better. On the Wednesday CE classes, the remote CE classes on Wednesday, we create the conversations that we have are just like that. Agents will come, and I promote this in the class, is ask a question, maybe provide an answer. I'm going to be provocative. I'm going to shake everybody's world. And yet at the same time, I want people to collaborate so that we walk away with the best ideas in that space.
All right. So point number 4 is my weakness. I have the ability to wait till it's too late to pull the ripcord, because generally a lot of ideas cost money, and if they're not costing money, if they're not costing a lot of money, they are using up your time. And I just lack the ability to pull that ripcord when I probably should, and so forth. But you implement new ideas, Mindy, but you also have to have a system, a tracking system, and know, how frequently am I reviewing the effectiveness of these, and at what point does this specific idea, I give it this timetable, because you just can't implement an idea. That idea has to evolve. Like for us, like we're doing this podcast, we're looking at the numbers each week, we're reassessing, readdressing, and we do have a timetable on this. If this doesn't work by X amount of date, then it might be time to stop investing in it. But we're also reevaluating on a weekly basis, so you have to have some sort of tracking system in place, I guess.
You do. So the short answer is, how do I know if these new strategies are working? Well, you'll start to get leads. So that's a great way to know if they're working for you. But you have to give it a long enough duration of time to know that for sure. So you can't do one open house and come back and tell me open houses don't work. You can't post one video on your Facebook and come back and tell me that that's not going to work. It's got to be something you've done long enough. Now, I like 12 weeks better. I like 90 days better. But if you'll give me 60 days, I could probably give you a good idea if that idea is going to stick for you.
Okay, but I want to warn everybody. It's also not a matter of in 90 days. If I give you 90 days, it's going to be almost impossible in 90 days to get a check. So it can't be how many closings have I had in 90 days. It's like, well, how many legitimate leads and where are those leads at?
Good point. Because Mindy,
Exactly.
you didn't mean that. You actually meant constant evaluation. It's just
Yeah.
if you don't let something season. In the old days of advertising, media advertising, you couldn't just put it in one run. If you put it in multiple, like say for 90 days, 3 months or whatever, 6 months, eventually some people that saw you before are going to go back maybe when their time frame, all of a sudden they come to the realization they want to buy a house. They're going to go to the place they last saw you if they liked you. And if you're not still there, you just lost that deal.
Yeah, and it's really simple. If you want, once again, reach out to me. I have a form for this. The way I track success in any of these categories is, how long did I spend doing it? How many people was I able to talk to in that time frame? And did I generate a lead there?
Perfect.
Closings are going to come down the road. But those are the 3 things, because I also want, Mike and Todd, if someone spent 3 hours doing one thing and they talk to 2 or 3 people, that's not a good return, right? So I need to make sure in that hour or 2 or 3, they're talking to enough people per hour to where they have the ability to generate leads from it. And all we do it is simply numbers tracking, tally marks. It's not complicated at all. And I have forms for you if you want.
Yeah, and I think this is why you mastermind with other agents, see what their success rate is. Like for us, for our team, one of our primary lead sources, that we call it our Recon 12. It's you call it your top 10 ambassadors, Todd, but we have a very systematic approach. But for us, you generally don't find success until about 6 months. But now, if you said, well, after 3 months, I'm giving up, it's not working, then you might be missing out. Now you would have an opportunity to talk with people who've done it. And we know through our track record, it's about 6 months. And then months 6 through 18, it's now, but sometimes you got to break through that barrier. And then the last thing I'd say is, if you are implementing these and you are having a lot of conversations, but they're not converting, you have to keep in mind it could be your conversion skills and maybe that's something that you double down on and you figure out how to overcome.
Just to go in an awful lot of different ways. But, I do believe that to Mindy's point, those three things give you an opportunity to self-reflect, to see if the message is clear, and then to see what the production result is. You don't have to convert at every conversation. That's the one thing I just want to make sure everybody's aware of. If you try to convert every single time, like Mindy, I call you on the phone, I haven't talked to you in a while, I'm starting something new, I want to say, hey, good to see you, I haven't talked in a while, what's going on? And I listen to you, and the person says, oh, this person, I haven't talked to Todd in a while, he really cares, I forgot about that. And then at the end of that conversation, I go, so do you know anybody who wants to buy a house? Don't do that. I mean, because you just ruined that rapport build to that particular point. But there's so many more pieces to that could go sideways. Just reach out to Mindy. That would be my recommendation.
If you track hours spent, conversations had, leads generated, appointments set for 6 or 8 weeks, I can sit down and show you what your weakness is and what your strength is. Either it's going to be you're not having enough conversations, you're not spending enough time, you're bad at converting. Right. So, but you got to track it long enough for us to be able to read your numbers and there's a story that they tell, right? Your numbers tell a story. So, last point. I saved it for last for a reason, because it's hardest for everyone to hear. In any sales-based job, FYI, we are direct salespeople. Okay. I know I hire people every day. I'm not salesy. I'm not a salesperson. Yeah, you are. If you're a real estate agent, you are in the business of direct sales.
Because
okay?
your real estate license says real estate salesperson on it.
Just in case you didn't
Can't get away from that, Todd.
No. Well, not until you get an associate broker license, but
sure. And so in any sales job, it's gonna be a numbers game, and sometimes the numbers come a little easier and sometimes they're a little bit harder, and so we have to change with those fluctuations. Okay, so right now we might be having to have more conversations in a week than we did 2 years ago, and that's the reality of the business. Okay, I have a couple of clients right now who stopped getting the kind of results that they needed in the last couple of months. So we sat down and did this exercise that we're talking about today. We sat down and determined, what are you going to do that's more over and above what you're already doing in a week. One client added 2 1-hour blocks of database calls to her schedule. One added a whole extra hour of prospecting a day, which is a lot, but
she's going to
do 60 deals this year. And her goal, she was trending off after the first quarter, and she decided the 60 was important enough for her to add that hour in every day. And so that's what she did. Your time spent talking to people, having conversations with people, will need to increase right now. How you choose to structure that is totally up to you, but more time needs to be put in your week on it. And it's not to be eyeballed. It's to take intention of. So what I want you to do, homework, is that you can go, I want to spend, an hour more a week talking to my COI. I'd rather talk to 10 people from my COI twice a week. It's a little bit more measurable if you do it by the contact.
That's a good point.
But be intentional about it. So don't just let fly by the seat of your pants. And if you have time, put it in your schedule, to Mike's 3-pack point. Make sure that you're doing it for a while.
All right, this is really, really good stuff. I want to remind everybody, so go ahead and email Mindy at mindyt@westusa.com. She's got the list of ideas, but put that in the subject line, list of ideas, because there's a lot of you that really just need 30 minutes of Mindy's time that she'll provide you with some of these forms, kind of put you on that path. And I'm always amazed every time you're on, Mindy. I mean, we're lucky to have you because we know of you as our corporate recruiter. And most agents don't know that you coach agents from around the country. And I'm always amazed on how many people just don't take up. I'm always talking with you and so forth. So we want you, if you want to chat with Mindy, go ahead and just email her. Mindy, thank you. This is really, really great stuff.
We are all here for you.
So take advantage of it. If you're not willing to take advantage of it, well, there lies the problem. All right, Mindy. Leave everybody with the quote of the day. He or she who does not expect to win is already defeated. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Go out and sell a home.